Hi, my name is Lexi Chong and welcome to my channel. So today I wanted to talk to you guys about the new MER Radiant Skin Tint. And this has broad spectrum SPF 30. I will have all the ingredients down below in the description box, but the active ingredients are 7.5% Octinoxate, 2% Octisalate, and 5.3% titanium dioxide. And obviously all three of those are sunscreen ingredients. So this skin tint, it's basically just a tinted moisturizer with a little bit of radiance and some SPF in it. Now, this is not a product that I would use and depend on for sunscreen protection. Let's face it, anytime you're using a skin tint, you're probably not using enough of the product to get full coverage of sunscreen anyway. But regardless of that, I do like to typically just make sure I have all of my bases covered and use a full sunscreen underneath my makeup as well. So this doesn't really, it's not going to be full coverage. However, on a day when you don't plan on really going outside and you don't really need so much SPF, and you're not planning on wearing sunscreen, this gives you a little bit of extra protection, just, for any of the residual sunlight you might get and so forth, like driving in a car or, just even lights and so forth. So for me, I use the Biologique Recherche Serum de Tint in shade 1, and I have been using this pretty much every day as the last step in my skincare before putting it on sunscreen, and it evens out my skin very nicely. So I thought maybe this would be a good option to kind of use this and get a little extra SPF protection. But I have found, I've worn this already for a couple days now, and I have found that they're really nothing alike. This is really just like a finishing serum with a little bit of tint. It balances your skin out. It looks beautiful. It doesn't look like you have any product on. There's no additional radiance or anything like that. So, if you don't want to wear any makeup, just evens your skin tone out nicely. It also, evens it out for makeup application, everything as well. So this is completely different. It sinks in, you don't see it. Whereas this is really more like a light coverage foundation. So that's what I have on right now. And I do have a clip here to show you guys of me applying it so you can see the amount of radiance. But I mean, if you look, I didn't apply any powder. I do have the Rituel de Fille Bee Balm on my cheeks here and a little highlight up here from the Guerlain Pearl Dust palette. But the rest of this is all the skin tint. So, I mean, you can see how radiant it looks. There is no highlight up here, no finishing powder or anything like that. So all that you're seeing is the skin tint. And it definitely has a radiance to it. Now, I was going to compare it originally with the Biologique Recherche, but, they are really incomparable. They're completely different. They have different purposes. Whereas this, because of its radiance, it reminds me more actually of the Armani Neo Nude foundation. So I'm going to swatch both of these on my arms so that you guys can see these. But first, let's start with the MER. So this is 1.4 fluid ounces. This is since it is a skin tint, it does also say that you can use this as a primer before using foundation, and it will provide a little extra radiance. So that is an option, especially if you are looking for, a little extra coverage, to add to, a lighter foundation or something like that. This will, kind of amp that up and provide a little extra coverage for you. It looks very nice. But it also says online, if you go to their website, that you can put your primer on first and then apply this as well. So you've got several options with this. This tube itself, it is a plastic squeeze tube, and you can see the color is very pretty. You've got typical MER packaging. This is like a silver tube with a tint of light pink to it. So it's kind of a unique shade. So it's very easy to use. The Armani also has a plastic tube, and this one is 35 milliliters, so just over an ounce, 1.18 ounces. So this is slightly bigger, also way more expensive. So, oh, sorry, I didn't realize I have makeup on my arm. So anyway, let's go ahead and swatch this. I'll swatch it on my wrist because I think it's a little easier to see. But the texture of this here is going to be, you know, since it does have sunscreen in it, it has like that thicker, creamier feeling to it than, for example, the Serum de Tint from Biologique Recherche. So this is shade Fair 02, and it actually shears out very nicely, and I think it works well for my skin tone. But can you see any of that radiance there? See how like it's not like shimmer particles, but you know, you do have a little bit of that in there. Okay, I had to wipe away that swatch. So my arm's just a little red where I cleaned it off. But you can see here, as it's drying, where it's kind of accumulated here, you can see kind of that more metallic-y finish to it. And when you blend it out, here you go. So I've applied this both with hands and a brush. I don't typically use beauty blenders too much, so I did not try that. But I like the brush application better. It does just give me like a little bit lighter coverage and smooths it out a little bit better. But today I did apply it with my hands. So I feel like you see a little bit more of the radiance when you use your hands versus a brush. Just for comparison, this is the Armani Neo Nude in 1.5. And I'm going to put this right underneath here. So this consistency is actually pretty similar. But I find that the La Mer actually feels slightly thicker, like the actual cream. Not necessarily it feels heavier on the skin, but I just think the actual cream itself is a little bit thicker, and that's probably due to the SPF products. So we'll let this one dry a little bit too, but you can already see this one has some radiance as well, but it's not going to have quite as much. So coverage wise, I think they're actually pretty similar, but the Armani Neo Nude has slightly more coverage than the La Mer, but the La Mer definitely has more radiance, and that radiance does help hide some imperfections because, you know, you don't really notice anything wrong when you see that shining, sparkling skin. So overall, I have been using this La Mer skin tint for a couple of days now, and I haven't had any issues with it lasting on my face all day. You know, I've been staying home, so I didn't go anywhere, but it stayed on. No real issues with any wear time or anything. I didn't have any weird creasing. It didn't look greasy. Hi everyone, I'm here for an 8-hour update on the La Mer Radiant Skin Tint. So you can see my skin still looks radiant and glowy, and you know, overall I think no real issues. So I did set it with the Givenchy Poudre Premiere powder, which is a matte loose powder, but you know, honestly I've worn this without using any powder at all, and it still pretty much looks like this. So this is not something that has to be set. It's really just a preference. But you can see it's still definitely radiant, and you know, overall, I think it's good. One thing I do want to know is this does have a scent, and I notice it when I am applying it, but I don't notice it once it's actually on. And I'm not super familiar with like a wide variety of La Mer products. You know, I've tried some of their staples like the cream and so forth, but I don't use them on a regular basis, so I'm not familiar enough with the scents to say whether or not this is, you know, this is a scent that's in some of the other products. But it does have like kind of like a floral seaweed type scent, so it's not bad, but it is a little bit, there is a little bit of a perfumey scent to it. So just something to know if you are sensitive to that. But again, once I actually have it on and applied to my skin, I don't notice it. It's only when I'm actually applying it and it kind of goes past my nose and so forth that I'm really noticing it. It's not a heavy scent. All right, so these swatches have dried down, so you can kind of see the radiance pretty well here. So the Armani here is at the bottom, and you can see that the radiance level in this, you definitely are getting some shine in there, but the La Mer you know, can definitely amp that up even more. So the La Mer actually extends to here. So if you're using a really sheer layer, it's not too shiny, but if you want to build it up, you can definitely kind of amp that up. You can actually even, you know, just apply a little bit of a heavier layer in the spots you want highlighted as well. And that works well. I did test that and no issues with that. So it's kind of like a nice, easy product to go. It's a nice, easy go-to for the summer. So I think on days when you're not interested in wearing a lot of makeup, this is definitely going to be a nice product to have to give you some sort of luminescence. And, you know, you really don't need anything else. So if you want to dampen the radiance a bit, I would apply a matte powder on top. And, you know, that'll take it down a little bit. All right, so just to show you guys how it looks with a matte powder on top, I'm gonna take, this is the Poudre Premiere from Givenchy, which is a matte powder. It's like a matte with a little bit of a satin. And I'm gonna take, this is the Armani blush brush. It's a little big for me for blush, so, but it's really loose and fluffy. You can see how long the bristles are, so it bends easily. I'm gonna put this on the right side of my face so you can see how that looks with a matte powder. All right, so you can see both sides still have some radiance shine through. Right here, this shine that you're getting is actually my highlight from Guerlain. But if you look at the rest of my face, now you have more of a like light satin finish. Whereas this side, you're still seeing a lot more of that like dewy look to it. So I think overall, it is a really nice product. Okay, so I just took off all of my makeup and I just wanted to show you guys what the Armani Neo Nude foundation looks like on one side and the La Mer Radiant Skin Tint on the other, because I feel like that is going to be a little bit more important to, you know, really see the difference versus the arm swatch I did earlier. So we're using the Armani Neo Nude True to Skin Natural Glow Foundation in shade 1.5. I'm going to use the Coyote Fupa 03 to apply this. Okay, so you can see with the Neo Nude foundation that I do have a subtle radiance and there is light coverage. Now looking at the La Mer Radiant Skin Tint in shade 2 Fair. I'm just wiping off the brush, but I am going to use the same brush. Okay, so you can see I'm getting a blemish here. I didn't really go over that really with either one, but here's the difference. So this side is the Armani Neo Nude. This is the La Mer. So they both have a pretty radiant finish, but actually the La Mer on my skin looks slightly cooler, even though swatching it, it really did look yellow. Give it a minute. We'll be back in a minute because it will oxidize just a touch. Okay, so here they are side by side, Armani Neo Nude, La Mer Radiant Skin Tint. Now I'm going to build up the coverage on each of these just so you can get a truer sense of it. So we're going to start with the Armani Neo Nude, and I'm going to use my fingers this time. Okay, so you can see both of these up close. I've let them sit for about a minute just for oxidation to occur. And on the Armani side versus the La Mer side, you can see that the La Mer is a touch more radiant. And honestly, I think the level of radiance is pretty similar, but I think the perception of radiance is stronger with the La Mer because I feel like the glowiness to the Armani is a little bit more of a golden toned glow. And I think it just, you know, it looks a little bit more natural on the skin tone. Whereas the La Mer, I feel like it's a little bit more of a silvery toned glow. And so, you know, it's more evident because it, you know, it's a little bit less skin-like. Does that make sense? So not that it doesn't look natural on the skin. I'm just saying that, you know, I think the golden glow of the Armani is a little bit more natural looking than the La Mer glow. but they both give a very radiant look to the skin. And I think level of coverage is pretty similar with both of these. Consistency of the formulas is also very similar in texture. Okay, so I'm just gonna give you guys my final thoughts now. Basically, the La Mer skin tint I think is a great product. You know, it is expensive, so whether you want to pay for that price tag, that is totally a personal decision. But one of the things that I think is really nice about it is that, you know, it is a multi-use product. So you can use this in place of foundation. You can use it underneath foundation to give kind of like a glow boost to your foundation and provide a little extra coverage. You could also just kind of tap it on in spots to get a little extra highlight. Here, I'll show you that. So if I just take a little bit of my finger, just kind of tap in a little bit more here, you're gonna get like a very subtle highlight there. It just amps that up a little bit in that spot. So, you know, it is a multi-use product. And again, you can use this as a primer if you want to. So I think that is really nice about it. To me, this is not a skin tint. To me, it is a light coverage foundation. The Armani one is actually built as a foundation. I feel like the coverage is comparable between the two. I feel like the La Mer seems a little bit more radiant. I think, you know, not only is the color of the glow different between the two, but I also think the La Mer glow is a little bit, it might be more finely milled in there. So overall, I think, you know, it is a great product. If you are not looking to spend the $95 price tag for this, I would recommend trying the Armani Neo Nude Foundation, which does have a larger color range. So the question, would I purchase this again? You know, seeing how close it is to the Armani Neo Nude Foundation, I probably would not purchase this again. Again, my original intention in purchasing this was to look for a replacement for the Biologique Recherche with some SPF protection, and the Armani does not, by the way, does not have SPF. But this didn't really meet that requirement. It's just too different. So, you know, it's really more of a light foundation. So in that sense, you know, I would probably go with the Armani Neo Nude Foundation just because of the better price point. And I think the level of coverage is comparable. And although the radiance is a little bit less, I think, with the Armani, they're very, very similar. So I like both products a lot. I do think the La Mer is a very nice product. So, you know, it's really like a personal preference. But for me, I would probably stick with the Armani if I were to do it again. Another point about the Armani is there is a much larger shade range with this than the La Mer. And, you know, again, they're both light coverage. They can both be sheared out. So the fact that this has a lot more color options, I think is going to make it a lot easier to find a match where you can feel comfortable building it up or leaving it sheer. So I hope this video was helpful. And if you are interested in supporting this channel, please like, comment, subscribe, and share. So hit the like button, leave a comment down below in the comment field. Subscribe if you haven't already, and share this video with your friends. Thank you so much for joining me, and I hope you have a fantastic day. Stay safe and healthy.